Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at descents in such a way that we can protect our engines. Now one of the interesting things is, as you start moving towards aircraft that are a little bit more complicated, a little bit more higher performance, a lot of times in the real world especially, you have to be very concerned with protecting the engine. These engines represent, $30, $40, $50,000 on the low-end investments. So one of the things we have to think about when we start to approach these and try to get them in a more realistic fashion is treating them with a little bit more respect and a little less, I like to call it flight simming. So right now we're in a Mooney 20R here. This is an excellent aircraft. It definitely was optimized for high performance for sure. Everything about this plane is really fast. I'm looking down right now. I'm burning, let's see here, 14.4 gallons per hour, and I'm doing, it's probably moving pretty quick, about 170 knots, which is insanely fast for an aircraft like this. Everything on board has been preset. I've got the mixture all ready to go. I've got everything pretty much ready to rock. And now it's time to start thinking about descents. Now, generally when we descend, as you know, we want to aim for about 500 feet per minute. This is usually pretty comfortable for the passengers. At the same time, it's going to get you down pretty darn fast. One of the problems we have, though, of course, is as we descend, gravity starts to take over, and it starts to get us going pretty darn quick. Now, I have a little bit of experience with this particular kind of airplane, and I gotta say, I've done over 230. Like, you can go really fast in a descent with this thing. So one of those things you gotta watch out for is controlling that speed. The other problem, and this is really important, is the fact that when we descend, the traditional kind of Cessna 172 method is to just grab onto the black handle and pull it all the way out. But realistically, if we wanted to do this carefully, we need to actually do a couple different things in order to make sure the engine is going to be reduced in power without basically freezing it to death on its very long descent. Now, right now, we're up here about 7,500 feet, which is substantial. It's not terrible. I mean, I don't need oxygen or anything, although I gotta say, if you're flying at night, the headache is very real. So let's go ahead and start our descent here. So we're gonna come down to 1,000 feet. And we're going to do a couple different things during our descent. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to maintain as close as we can to about 500 feet per minute. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to reduce our power on a power schedule so that we have the ability to go ahead and carefully make sure that the power is set in a way that our speed stays relatively constant. When we get to altitude, we don't have to change the trim, and our engine stays nice and warm throughout the descent here. Again, we can just pull the throttle all the way back. This is flight sim and whoosh, but we're not going to do that today. So let's go ahead and take our little handy-dandy automatic pilot. We'll shut off altitude hold mode. We'll go ahead and press down a couple times in the real plane, and what this would do is make your plane go down. But as you can see in our flight sim, they got the buttons reversed. Come on, Carinator, you guys are so good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come over here and start a timer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down to 500 feet per minute, and I'm going to watch my timer carefully. That's about 500 feet per minute right there. Perfect. And what I'm going to do is every minute is I'm going to reduce my power by 1 inch of mercury, and I'm also going to enrich in the mixture just a tiny bit. One of the things I notice right now is my exhaust gas temperature is sitting here high and very warm at 1,529 Fahrenheit, and I can also see 23 and I can also see 24. About 30 seconds have gone by. We're starting to lose a little bit of altitude. Let me go ahead and tap that down a couple more times. Pop. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Not bad. Of course, if we wanted to, we could arm our altitude, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to worry about it too much. So we're just going to let the timer just kind of go away here. Nothing too crazy here. Again, I can watch this temperature is going to slowly start shifting because remember, the air starts to get a little bit thicker as we start to lose a little bit of altitude. So we have to start playing a little bit of that game as we begin our actual descent here. So looking, I've got about 52 seconds, 55, that's going to be there. And we're going to go ahead and reduce the power for our first inch. Do you see how we went up to 24? So I'm going to pull this back to 23. You see how that was almost exactly 1 minute? That means we're doing an okay job here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and push the mixture in just a tiny bit. I don't want to push it in too far. And then we're going to get ready for our next minute. I swear I did not touch my throttle. That's just how accurate the 1 minute and 500 feet per minute descent rates are. And again, all I've done is in the real world, you would pull this thing out like not very much. Like I said, it's very little. And one of the great things about this aircraft is, do you see how my exhaust gas temperature is slowly starting to rise again? It's doing this because my air-fuel mixture is actually starting to mix a little bit better, and we're actually getting closer to the ideal stoichiometric pressure here, ratio I should say, not pressure. I don't even know what that would be. So what's going to happen now, as you can see, I'm at 143, is we're going to go ahead, and this is going to continue climbing, and all of a sudden, right around 2 minutes, you're going to watch this number suddenly shift up to 24, and all we're going to do is reduce it by 1 inch, regardless of where it actually shows that we are now. So you can see we're just about 2 minutes there, so I'm going to grab onto the throttle. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little tiny tug here, and we're going to pop it down just a little bit here. So now we've gone ahead and reduced it. I'm going to go ahead and make a quick adjustment to my mixture as well. I'm going to pop back it up, a little bit less than that. and we're going to start coming down. Now, the interesting thing is about 2 minutes have gone by. When the third minute goes by, this is probably going to pop itself back up. So we have to time it really, really carefully to try to keep this number basically the same all the way down, so my engine's producing the same power. Now, while we're doing all this, a couple things we want to keep an eye out for. First of all, look at our airspeed right now. We are just a teeny, teeny, tiny bit below the VNO here, which is it's a no zone for a reason. The second thing we need to keep an eye on is what our ground speed is. We're doing 180 knots over the ground right now, which if you've been doing a lot of work in Cessna 172s, you know, any 172 could probably do that speed once, but again, we wouldn't want to try to encourage that. Notice, by the way, that as our descent has gone up, my manifold pressure popped back up to 23, and notice my gas temperature slowly starting to rise again as the air-fuel mixture starts to hit just right. Now notice we're hitting about 3 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the throttle out again, just a little bit, lose just an inch, and then a minute from now, of course, we continue this process. Now let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit and reach the bottom of our descent here. Ignoring the fact that we're a little low, everything has worked exactly on schedule. Our total descent time was roughly about the time that we'd calculated at 500 feet per minute, but notice here that our RPM and our manifold pressure is exactly the same as it was the entire way down, because we kind of put everything on those 1 minute intervals here. Other things to notice is my exhaust gas temperature has actually come down a little bit because of the way the combustion works. Now here's where things get interesting. Let me go ahead and fix with this just a little bit. If I look down here, you'll notice a couple interesting things. The first one is my mixture has come in significantly on the way down. The other thing you probably notice is my throttle is pulled out significantly as well because of each one of those little tiny bit of reductions on the way down. Now, if I reversed the process and jammed on the throttle and made my way back up, you would actually see all those things happen differently. Another thing, and this is a little bit more subtle that you might have missed during our descent, is that our cylinder head temperature, well, when we were, of course, going very quick, did come down a little bit, but notice it's still in a good range. You know, we didn't let this drop below 300, and we certainly didn't let it get greater than 390, where the metal starts getting a little on the soft side. So you can see we were able to maintain a nice safe engine temperature during that descent, and we really didn't lose a lot of speed. We actually made quite a bit of progress here because we were traveling an extra 30 knots. So hopefully this video is helpful as far as showing you, obviously, as you get the bigger airplanes like you're dealing with the DC-6, now you've got 4 engines to worry about, and there's a reason why you had another person sitting next to you who could take care of a lot of those controls during your average flight. But if you're looking for that extra little bit of realism or that extra kind of mental practice, it's an excellent strategy. If you're dealing with things like Cessna 172s or constant speed propellers, it's going to be a little bit more work for you because you're going to have to kind of work it out by RPM, which of course is going to be adjusted by your airspeed. Enjoy.